This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc, one of the fine sponsors of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is The Athletic. And listeners of this very podcast can get 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. The Athletic is premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, along to my usual sidekick and broadcast partner in fun. That is the Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing?
Vito, always enjoy the opportunity to talk baseball, inching ever so close to opening day. My goodness, man. And some news was made, man. One of the first decisions that Ron Gardenhire made kind of upset a lot of people. On our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, a lot of people were weighing in on why would Ron Gardenhire, when you start the season, you kind of usually go with your best pitcher, the guy that game one gives you the best chance to win. So when the name came out, everyone's like, okay, yeah, we know it's going to be Michael Fulmer. And then they read the reports and they kind of start looking and they go, wait a minute, that's not Michael Fulmer. Ron Gardenhire actually came out and said that opening day, game one, the guy he's going to hand the ball to is Jordan Zimmerman. What do you think about that?
Season's over already. But that's example A of Ron Gardenhire being an old-school manager, going with the veteran arm who has the veteran savvy, but hasn't produced anything of relevance since being in a Tigers uniform. Outside of what? The first half, first month, really, when he was peerless? And that was first month for him in a Tigers uniform. So all the way back in 2016, it's been bad for him ever since that first month passed him by, or first 2 months of him being a Tiger. So you're going with the guy that had a 6 ERA last year, a 6.08 ERA. Now, decent results in spring training, better than that, but an ERA hovering around 4, so nothing perfect or outstanding, dominant, whatever adjective you want to use to describe Jordan Zimmerman. It's definitely not overwhelming still what he's done in spring training. Decent, but not overwhelming, and that tells me he shouldn't be the opening day starter. And I guess that's why Ron Gardenhire waited all this time to announce the opening day starter. Because we thought, well, he's still going to announce that Michael Fulmer will be the opening day starter after last year. He was much better than Jordan Zimmerman. And, he's 2 years off of, a Rookie of the Year award. And he has the potential to be a Cy Young candidate. He is the ace of this rotation now and for the future. And you go with this veteran arm who's past his prime, it looks like. I don't like the decision whatsoever, Doc.
What'd you make of Jordan Zimmerman's performance versus the New York Yankees? 5 innings, only gave up 2 hits. When you look at what he's done in spring training, obviously Ron Gardenhire has observed and said, I want to go with the veteran. I believe that this is a guy that can give us the best chance to win. And I'm kind of thinking that, you know what, maybe there's a little bit more than what's going on in terms of competitive balance. I think that a point that was brought up to us on our Twitter page was, look, they already know they got a full house on game one. They already know they got a lot of fans already bought tickets. So what you do is you throw in Jordan Zimmerman for game one, and then you have in the second game at home, you have Michael Fulmer so that you boost attendance for that second game. And so do you think potentially that there's room to argue that maybe this move was also made for ticket sales as opposed to actually what's the best for business in terms of winning on the diamond? I do believe that, because if you look at it and you say, well, if we're already going to have, everyone knows the Tigers are going to have a struggle this season, and you know that ticket prices and ticket sales, and you already know that ticket sales are going to be at a premium, why not just add Michael Fulmer game 2? You might get the extra people that just want to walk up and see Michael Fulmer. I agree with that.
It might be a PR ploy. You're right. It might be PR genius. I don't know.
Not PR, it's sales. It's just strictly, we already have the sales already for game one. Whoever we throw out there, the fans are already there. They're not going to not show up. So then what you say is you got to draw in game 2. So you bring out the opening act game 1, and you hope that he performs well. But in the end, then you go to game 2 with Michael Fulmer.
It's more about game 2 almost.
Yep.
And you know what? You're going to get people in the seats no matter what at Comerica Park on opening day on Thursday. Okay, so Saturday you might not because of, well, Zimmerman gets rocked. That's the thing. If he gets rocked Saturday, now I know tickets are already sold. People know they're already going on that Saturday, 2 days after opening day, as they always give you that day, that leeway, the following day. So if the game gets postponed because of snow, who the heck knows here in Michigan? It could snow, right? So with it being so early opening day this year on a Thursday, so Friday's opened up for opening day to be played in case of inclement weather. But I get your point about Fulmer. You start him Saturday because you already know people are going to come to the ballpark on Thursday. Your seats are already being sold. You're making money already, and a lot of money, an astronomical amount of money on Thursday for opening day. But Saturday, you don't know that. You can't guarantee that. So you start really your opening act, per se, your best act on Saturday then, in Michael Fulmer. The more sexy, attractive commodity, you could say definitely when comparing him to Jordan Zimmermann.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I guess you got to do what's best for business, and you just hope that Jordan Zimmermann, I'm going to look up here in a few minutes here what Jordan Zimmermann did with the Nationals versus the Pirates as well. Maybe there's a little bit of some look there in terms of maybe what Jordan Zimmermann was able to accomplish in the past versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. But it's coming up close, Vito. It's inching ever so close. Opening days here, man. You ready for this rock and roll season we're about to go through?
Rock and roll? Well, it might not be. It might be the opposite of rock and roll. Because it might not be entertaining or exciting. I'm being the pessimist once again here on this podcast, but I have been, right, all off season long, talking about how I'm in dismay. Everybody's up in arms about this ball club. And then, so you have this decision made by Ron Gardenhire, and then something that is out of his hands that just occurred, which is horrible for the ball club, the future of the ball club specifically. That is Franklin Perez, the Tigers' top prospect, top pitching prospect, but, overall in the farm system, he is number one, Franklin Perez. The prize trade chip in that Justin Verlander deal with the Houston Astros. And now he's going down with what is, I believe, being called a right lat injury, and he will miss a minimum of 12 months, meaning actually he can't throw, I believe, for a minimum of 12 weeks, 12 weeks, so 3 months in totality, which means you're not going to see him more than likely at all this season. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not the worst case scenario because, you know what, let him rest the rest of this season then and get healthy for next year and future seasons because the Tigers need him, most importantly, to be productive in future campaigns. Not in 2018 per se, but in 2019, 2020, and beyond, Doc.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think when I heard the news, that they said that this dude's kind of had a strong workload early in his career, and the injury is a lat injury?
Right lat injury.
Okay, and so that might take, I think the timetable they said was about 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
But the good thing is surgery is probably not needed, correct? Surgery's not needed. He's just going to rehab, and they're going to reevaluate in 3 months, correct?
They're going to look at, what happens to him over the course of those 12 weeks, and then go from there, apparently.
Okay.
So, that's the optimistic news on the injury front for Franklin Perez. And he suffered this right lat strain specifically during a minor league game on March 18th. So, you know what? At this time, no surgery is recommended, and the expected recovery time is a minimum of 12 weeks. So, once again, could be worse, Doc, and no surgery is required, which means it could have been worse, definitely, too, with that being said.
Yeah, it could have been worse. You look at this young arm and you say, some people even wrote us and said, well, based on what's going on, if he has a light season this year and you don't risk him, it's maybe okay. But some people are also on the other side saying, look, this is a setback for this guy. Some people thought that, there was an opportunity for him to kind of move through the minors real quickly and really, get the opportunity to get some experience and things like that. How big a setback do you think a 3-month injury is for a 21-year-old who's a prospect? You think it's a big deal? Are you overly concerned? Or you say to yourself, look, it's just one of those things where it happens. You just got to make sure you rehab properly and start the process of getting well as soon as possible.
I think, honestly, because he's so young, it might actually be a blessing in disguise. I heard on the radio on Tuesday, Ron Gardenhire was on the airwaves talking to some guys, and he was saying that, well, one of the guys asking questions of Ron Gardenhire was asking and kind of making the point that Franklin Perez might benefit from not having a pitch this year because of a less workload on his arm. He's gone through a lot already at this young juncture in his professional baseball career. As a minor leaguer, still a pro baseball player. So it's been a lot of work on his arm. And maybe this year off, if it is going to be a full year off, which right now it might not be a full year off, by the way. But just the time off, time away from baseball, time away from pitching might benefit him in the long haul. In so many words, Doc.
Exactly. That's what a lot of our supporters said as well. And they say, wow, based upon what's going on, you've read reports and things like that regarding the use of arms early on. And a lot of people have really explored how young pitchers are used. And it's really true. The way that young pitchers are used really has to be looked at because of the plethora of arm injuries that these young cats are going through. I mean, I recall a Real Sports report that came out, and it was talking about, these young kids and how many curveballs they're throwing. And it's just the force on their arms, especially at their young ages, that they don't want these young kids throwing curveballs at such a young age. And so it really is something to talk about in terms of how these young pitchers are used. And we can just look right in our backyard. We're all concerned regarding Michael Fulmer in that any pitch that he throws with with how violent his delivery is, any pitch that he throws, we're all concerned that he's going to be injured. So it's one of those situations where you've got to be really careful because this is the prize arm, and you don't want to do anything in terms of rushing him back. You don't want to do anything to impede his path to the major leagues. And it just kind of sucks because you don't want to hear about a 3-month injury with one of the prospects, but such is life, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's downright tough news, though, to hear. When you're so optimistic about these young arms, young players in the Tigers farm system that you expect to contribute maybe by even the end of this season. Now, Franklin Perez will be delayed when he reaches the majors, perhaps. But once again, it could be a blessing in disguise because not as much work on his right arm this season, giving him time to maybe better develop into the arm that the Tigers expect him to be, which is a frontline arm. So, any kind of injury setback is still something significant to take into account, to bring up, and to worry about as Tigers fans, as the Tigers organization. But I would say that it's not the worst case scenario. As long as surgery is avoided, he won't miss as much time, and it means it's not as significant of a thing. And right now, it's just a right lat strain, once again, to specify what Franklin Perez, the setback that he suffered on March 18th in a minor league game, and that is what he's going through. So, once again, could be worse, and he's still going to be viewed as the Tigers' top pitching prospect. That's not going away. That ranking of him, he's still got to deal with all that pressure. So, hopefully the thing is that this setback doesn't, bring about a ton of more pressure on him in his prized right arm. Because if he, potentially now, if this really flares up moving forward as well, this right lat issue for him, and becomes a major issue, that is when maybe Franklin Perez becomes a flameout, never becomes what the Tigers expected him to be. But that's the worst case scenario, and we do want to stay optimistic about him and really all of these young guys the Tigers have on the farm right now, because that is the Tigers' future. That is what they're banking on. They're banking on Franklin Perez, Bo Burrows, Matt Manning, Alex Vito, all these guys to become something in the future. Daz Cameron, Kristen Stewart. They want all these guys to become something, and their future 2, 3, 4 years from now relies heavily on those guys becoming something of significance at the major league level.
100%, Vito. Any news regarding any other prospects that kind of made noise in the last couple of weeks that caught your eye?
Well, I know they're saying that Alex Vito might make it to the bigs a little bit sooner than expected. And The Athletic, our fine sponsor at The Athletic, did pen an article about that being the case. So maybe that does come to fruition. And right now, as Tigers fans, we need some optimistic news, obviously, after hearing about Franklin Perez going down in this injury setback, hearing about Jordan Zimmermann becoming the opening day starter, and nobody here in Motown wanting that to be the case. So Vito, one of the prized Tigers pitching prospects, well, if he can reach the majors maybe a little bit sooner than expected, it brings a little bit more optimism to the ball club this season. And maybe just a few more people wanting to check out the Tigers, at least for that first start, if Vito makes it to the bigs this season, which I know we shouldn't expect that to happen and just jump on the bandwagon of him being, even if he makes the majors this season, to be ultra productive. Because you can't expect that out of even Franklin Perez. If he would have made the majors, or Bo Burrows, or Matt Manning, any of those guys right now reaching the majors, or the Tigers' positional prospects, you can't expect them to be extremely productive at this juncture in their careers.
Okay, so you're taking the wait-and-see approach like a lot of people, and you're starting to kind of see how the lineup is taking shape. You impressed at all? You feel like, based on what you're seeing, that it is at least what's the best available for the Detroit Tigers? I don't think they're making, obviously bold moves. They have the team that they have in place. It's just basically, I know you're comparing them to the rest of the American League Central, but in terms of what they have, I do believe they have the best lineup out there, and I do think that it has a chance to compete. In terms of how often are they going to go out there per 9 innings and get the victory? Probably not a lot, but I do think that there might be a chance for the Tigers to prove you wrong if they do get out to a good start. If you just look at the early matchups early on in the season, there's a chance to take a couple series. After the break, I want you to kind of peek at a little bit of the first couple series and how important it is to get off to a good start, because I do think there's a chance early on in the month of April that there's a chance for the Tigers to have some success. And I also want to talk to you about a promotion that's kind of making news as well. It's coming back next year. We'll talk about that right after this break.
The best case scenario for the Tigers. We'll talk about that and all of what you just said after this quick commercial break on Tiger Stock with Chirco and Company. So, Doc, as you know, one of our fine sponsors at the DSP Network is the Detroit Sports Commission, which was responsible for bringing the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament to Little Caesars Arena this past weekend, an event that we were a part of. We were proud to be a part of. Great experiences, great confines, great amenities at Little Caesars Arena. An event that was possible because of the Detroit Sports Commission and its great staff. And since '01, the Detroit Sports Commission specifically has applied its expert touch to marketing and to selling the Metro Detroit area as a marquee destination for regional, national, and even international amateur sporting events. And through the Detroit Sports Commission's help, these events have attracted thousands of visitors and pumped millions of dollars into our local economy. It is why Detroit is now not only the place where champions are made, but also the place where championships are played. So to find out more about the Detroit Sports Commission, please follow the DSC on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports, and make sure to check out their fine website at DetroitSports.org.
All right, Vito, pulled up the Jordan Zimmerman versus Pittsburgh Pirates stats. Doesn't look like there's a lot of appearances. 57 total at-bats by Pittsburgh Pirates players versus Jordan Zimmerman. Out of 57 at-bats, he's given up 17 hits, 4 doubles, no triples, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 4 base on balls with 5 strikeouts. The Pittsburgh Pirates batted, on average, about 300. But you got to remember now that it's been about 4 or 5 years since he's performed.
And remember, Andrew McCutchen is no longer a part of the Pirates, and other players are no longer a part of the Pirates. So that really means nothing. You can throw those stats outside the window big time.
Don't you dare dismiss me,
not even
Vito.
relevant. Dismissing you and those stats right now because they're not relevant to Jordan Zimmerman and the pitcher that he is right now, because he's not the pitcher that he was 5 years ago with the Nationals either.
Listen, Vito, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on in Ron Gardenhire's brain. Because
it's interesting. It's a conundrum, you could almost say. What the hell is going on inside his veteran-savvy head, experienced head? I mean, because he is an experienced manager, from his past, stint with the Twins. He spent a lot of time there in Minnesota competing against the Tigers, but we don't know what the hell's going on in his head and why he decided to pick Jordan Zimmerman. At least not completely. And once again, we did hear a little bit, on the radio earlier in the week, on a competitor radio station, that he picked him because of his veteran status, Zimmerman. That, he's been around for a while, but
managers lie all the time. I
don't like that reason, though, Doc.
Yeah, managers lie all the time, and I do think that he has seen what he's done in spring training, but at the same time, I agree that he's lying, and I don't believe that that's the main reason why Jordan Zimmerman gets the ball. But he did at least come out and say that Michael Fulmer will get the chance in the future based upon what he's doing, but what are you going to do?
Well, Fulmer should be the guy moving forward, and you would expect him to be. If he becomes a pitcher that we think he can be, which is an ace-caliber arm, which really he was last year, and after Verlander was gone, got dealt to the Astros, he was the ace of the Tigers pitching staff. He is right now, even though Zimmerman is taking them out on opening day against the Pirates, nobody really believes that Zimmerman is the best Tigers starting pitcher right now. Come on. You would have to be on something. Come on.
Yeah, Vito, you're absolutely right. I don't think that many people are in favor of it. I think it angered a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, angered me. I was furious on Twitter.
Yeah.
Everybody was. Did you see Twitter?
Well,
the tweets coming in, man, and to our Twitter handle at Detroit Podcast. I know people were extremely angry.
Yeah. So, look, in terms of trying to keep it positive.
Yes, let's try to do that.
Okay, let's look at the first 2 or 3 series that the Tigers have. What is your outlook in terms of what they can do in terms of a positive side? Obviously, most people believe the Tigers are going to struggle, but just in terms of looking at the first couple series, what's your outlook? Who are they facing? Where are they playing? And what are the opportunities for the Tigers to have some success?
The Pirates at home, you have the Royals at home, and then the White Sox on the road. Not intimidating opponents this season. The Pirates have been depleted. They've dealt a lot of guys. The Royals aren't going to be good. They brought back the Moose, Mike Moustakas, but he's their best hitter now. He's not a consistent, steady, run-producing guy, so you don't fear him too much. Now, Salvador Perez is back, Alcides Escobar, but their pitching rotation, you got Danny Duffy and a lot of other guys that aren't that great. Ian Kennedy, their bullpen's not as strong as it used to be. The White Sox are a young ball club just like the Tigers. Now, they're more ahead of the curve when it comes to the rebuilding process than the Tigers are. So they might be a little bit better off, but you know what? They're not intimidating. They're not going to be a ferocious opponent. Tigers can easily take all 3 series to start up the season. So this is me now being Mr. Optimist about the Tigers for a change, because I haven't been all offseason long on these episodes of Tigers Talk. But I guess I can be here because of their matchups and what they're going to face, at least in the first 3 series that they have to start the season, Doc.
In those 3 series, how many games are they facing? And break it down for me.
Well, you got 3 against the Buccos. You've got 3 against the Royals and 3 against the White Sox. So everybody's a 3-game series until you face the Indians on the road. So a 4-game set. So
first 6 games at home. Maybe you take 4 of them.
First 6 you got at home. Maybe you take 4. 5. That's probably reach, and they're not going to take 5. 3 or 4. Take 3 at least, right? Go 500 to start off. Then it's not horrible. I mean, people are expecting the Tigers, as we've talked about ad nauseum, to finish 30 games below 500. If you go 500, or even 500 this season, or get close to 500, that's a win for the Tigers. That's a win, huge win for Ron Gardenhire, because nobody's expecting him to win at all, or even to come close to 500 play this season in his first year as Tiger skipper.
So realistically, maybe if you want to, be a little bit realistic, maybe you say they lose 2 of 3 to Pittsburgh, maybe win 2 of 3 versus the Royals.
And win 2 of 3 against the White Sox. You should, even though you're on the road against the White Sox, there's no home crowd there, home factor for the White Sox right now, because they're a young ball club, they're rebuilding, nobody's showing up for those games. It will be empty, completely empty at those games in Chi-Town on the south side of Chicago for that 3-game set with the White Sox, no doubt in my mind.
Really? Why is there a lack of a buzz?
Because people expect the White Sox to maybe even finish worse off than the Tigers in 2018. They could be the team that finishes in dead last in the American League Central. Maybe in the entire American League, the White Sox could be the worst club. Maybe in the majors, the White Sox end up being the worst club. Tigers not too far behind, but the Tigers could realistically, now I said before the break about the best outlook for the Tigers.
I think maybe
and it could be 3rd place, maybe, Doc, this season, by the way.
Okay, so probably based upon our realistic expectations, we probably would say the most likely record for the Tigers that's in the best case scenario is probably 5-4, where you win
for this first 9-game stretch. Yeah, 4-5, 5-4, because they can't go 500 obviously, but 4-5, 5-4. If they go 5-4, Ron Gardenhire is already winning. I mean, nobody expects him once again to do anything in this first year on the job.
Yeah, and so maybe you surprise people and you do win those first couple series, or you play Pittsburgh tough and you barely lose. But then those two, versus the Royals and versus the Chicago White Sox, it's definitely imperative to get off to a good start in the division. And obviously, the class of the division is Minnesota and Cleveland.
Yes.
So it's important maybe if you can just maybe be around that 3rd place team and maybe just compete in those matchups versus Minnesota and Cleveland, and you try to play your best in those contests. Those I think 19 games each versus the White Sox and the Royals. So it's an opportunity to basically beat up on teams lesser than you. And maybe, I know a lot of fans, what they like to see is, look, you're not going to play well versus Boston, the Yankees, the Orioles, Texas.
Orioles maybe, actually, but yeah.
Teams
There's a
like
lot
that.
of teams that you're not going to play good against this season for the Tigers.
Most likely, yes. The Angels are going to have some. Most likely, the Angels are going to have their way with the Tigers. But teams that are worse than you might have a chance to compete. And hey, early on, you got just early on, first 9 games, and we'll probably do that throughout the podcast. Just kind of look ahead, 3 series at a time, and then we'll break down each game, and we'll break down what we're seeing in terms of trends and who's playing hot, who's not. We'll play Big Vito's over under.
Sure.
So we'll try our best to get great interviews, great insight from those around town as well as this season kicks off here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. But in the spirit of positivity, there's a chance that they can do some things, take advantage of playing those crumb bum teams. And it looks like, from what you're saying, the Royals obviously sold with some players. They obviously let go of some important people.
Yeah.
They didn't bring them back. And the White Sox are in a rebuild mode. And unfortunately for Dom, it's looking like the teams that he supports, the White Sox and the Tigers, are going to be in the toilet this year.
Should be in the toilet bowl. Yeah, slim pickings for the Tigers in terms of who they can eat them up, eat them up Tigers. Well, they can feast against the White Sox and Royals this season. Now, they're not going to feast against the Tribe or the Twinkies. The Twinkies are, you could say, vastly improved. Remember, they made the 1-game wild card against the Yankees last season, got blown out. But they made it last year in that 1-game playoff. They're a big-time contender and favorite for making it via the AL wildcard once again, in my opinion. Now, they've added Lance Lynn from the Cardinals, had a good year last season, good starting pitcher. Jake Odorizzi via trade from the Tampa Bay Rays. The Twinkies have beefed up, but they have let go of our man, Anibal Sanchez, the dirty Sanchez, the Sanchez at one point for the Tigers, already dismissed by the Twinkies because he was so darn ineffective in spring. And now at this point in Anibal's, career, this juncture in his career, I've got to believe he's got to be done, man. He showed signs of it with the Tigers. Everybody wanted him gone. They didn't get rid of him. Now he officially, was, let go by the Twins in spring training. That's a career lowlight for Anibal Sanchez, and it might be a sign of the fact that he's got to hang it up. I think so, Doc. Look at what Anibal has done in the past, recent memory with the Tigers, now with the Twinkies, ineffective in spring. Who else is going to pick him up at this point?
Yeah, when you hear the word cut, and you thought, well, maybe they give him a chance, maybe he can revitalize something in his career, but just the stuff, he doesn't have it. It's unfortunate. He just doesn't have it.
And you know what? The Tigers have to feast these first, 9 games because, okay, you go 4-5, that's not even feasting, but going 5-4, because of the fact that you face the Indians for 4 on the road, and then the Yankees after that for 3 at home. Imagine what the Tigers could do, how bad they could do. So going from an optimistic point of view, with the Tigers' first 3 matchups against the Pirates, against the Royals, and then against the White Sox, but then followed by the Indians and then the Yankees, at least the Yankees at home, that should be a good series in terms of attendance at Comerica Park. And for a weekend series to start off this season relatively early in the season at Comerica should bring in good numbers. But in terms of win-loss, total for that series against the Tribe, followed by that series against the Yankees, that could be a reverse of maybe the positive trend that the Tigers start off in. Because we see maybe something positive, right, from the Tigers to start off. But then facing the Tribe and Yankees, man, they could go downhill right after that 5-4 start. So it might not stay positive for a long period of time with the Tigers this season.
Okay, Vito, I want to bring this up to you because I think there's an opportunity because we can tie this together with other bits that we've done here on the network. All right, there's a couple days in the promotional schedule that allows you a chance to kind of make some friends and also make yourself the man in and around town, okay? The Tigers obviously have brought back and let go of some different promotions, but one of the most popular ones is Bark at the Park. So I'm imploring you that most of the people that bring their dogs to the ballpark are not going to be females. I'm going to implore you that I think it's important that now a goal for you to set is get yourself a cute dog or find somebody that has a cute dog that's going to let you borrow it.
For the game, right?
Take it for the game.
Yes.
Sit in that little section. Most of the fans are going to be female, and then you're going to have a chance to bring up small talk. You're going to have a chance to enjoy a game with a pet. And it's true, for those lads that are single, it's important to do the things that maybe attract the young females. And what better way than drinks and bringing your dog to the ballpark? So I'm imploring you, this is an opportunity for us to continue to work on getting your, love situation in order. I think you need to go to Bark at the Park, and you need to do it as a correspondent of the network as well. So obviously we can double dip, and we can help you out with your love life. You can at least commiserate, and you can speak with these several young ladies that are going to be there filling up the section there with their dogs. And also, you can kind of report on the scene as to what's going on. You can be the in-game reporter. Actually,
for the DSP network, right?
Actually,
Drunk Vito. Drunk Vito segments for the DSP network. Onside at Comerica.
It might be cheaper for us, to get you like a $4 ticket. You just can you report?
Just mingle, walk around, commiserate, like you said.
Can you report from the ballpark in a non-official capacity?
Yeah, non-telling fashion of the fact that I'm doing it for a media entity.
Yeah, you're standing there.
I got a mic. I'm not media though. I got wear a media pass from something else from the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
I wear that pass. But little V on the scene with the little dog. What would be better? And I'll be barking too. I'll be barking. The dogs won't be the only ones barking. I'll be barking too.
What do you think about bringing pets to a ballpark? Do you think that it's it's widely popular? Why do you think it's so popular? Do you think that everyone's attached to their pet and they just want to enjoy what they enjoy with their pets? So why not bring a dog to the ballpark and just enjoy some baseball?
Well, as long as the dog's not pooping or peeing everywhere, right? And like these dog owners should know better. Should bring the bags for the poop if they poop. But what do they do? Go to the bathroom, go number 2 at the ballpark. What happens then? Yeah. Are the dogs kicked out? Are the fans and dogs kicked out subsequently because their dogs are, misbehaving there and can't control their bowel movements, let's say?
Yeah.
That could lead to some dirty play. A lot of ugliness there, and a lot of people walking in dog crap.
Wait,
who would want that, dude?
I think most people, when they take their dog in a public setting in that fashion, probably bring the bag.
And they know better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be the kind that just leaves it there and just walks away.
Well, I would. Well, I'd be busy, mingling with the females. small talk for me. No pun intended for me. Little V, some small talk.
Do you think they should open it up to cats or different
No,
animals?
I don't want a feline. Oh, hell no.
No?
I'm allergic. So I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be there reporting for the DSP network. I could enjoy myself and drink, enjoy myself, talk to the females, and be barking. Because I would be barking away. Maybe we can make it happen, but you might get a few shoddy looks at us trying to figure out, why do I have a mic? I'm not officially media, but I'm here as a media representative for somebody. What's this DSP, Detroit Sports Podcast Network? What am I doing? And I'm just walking around from fan section to fan section, bothering people. They probably would end up kicking me out. I would get kicked out.
Yeah.
Because I would be on my baddest behavior. Oh, trust me.
But, man, I'm telling you, plan it out. You and Nick, bring some dogs, find some friends with dogs.
Bring dogs. We'll just find dogs on the street. Homeless. Hey, can I take a stray dog right there? He probably has rabies. It'll bite me. Thanks. Hey, that'll be on you, right? The bill. If I get bit by a dog with rabies, have to get a rabies shot?
Man.
I'll put that bill on you, man. But it would be a fun night. A lot of barking would be occurring, and not just from the dogs, in my opinion. Now,
in talking with friends, and to wrap this up in terms of promotions, and then we'll get out of here, what do you think about periodically, because, I went back and forth with my boys and kind of talking about it. I feel like it's a bad idea. What do you think about free beer night?
Yeah, you couldn't do that because of what we said earlier, remember, on an earlier edition of Tigers Talk?
But
how many drunk people would you have? And like college students coming from Wayne State, from Detroit Mercy, just drinking everything,
Vito,
man.
You're adding the caveat that it's not unlimited free beer night. Look, you get a ticket.
You get cut off. You have like a
card, a little card.
A quantity on the card or whatever that says you can get 3, and then they check you off every single time you get a drink?
Two.
Okay.
2 max, 2 12-ouncers, and that's that. You get 2 free beers. You get the opportunity to, you can have a hot dog for $5 and 2 beers. You can get in the ticket for like $6. You can basically get into the ballpark for maybe $15. You get 2 free beers, enjoy some baseball. I feel like it's a good idea if you set limits. You know what I mean? You set limits, or you say to yourself, it's free beer, but it's cut off after the 4th inning.
You'd have a lot of people being cut off. I know that.
Yeah, you get one at a time, and
yeah, no double fisting. Obviously, they don't allow that, I believe, anyways.
Right.
And they need 2 separate, forms of identification. One for one individual, one for the other. So you can't buy 2 beers for yourself. You got to have 2, proofs of ID. One for yourself, one for somebody else. So that's how it's handled. That's how it should be handled. But it would still get out of control. Come on. People would be inebriated, lit like Christmas trees, whatever you want to say to describe it. But it would be a hot mess over there, man, at Comerica Park.
Okay.
Would be fun. Would bring in the fans, but would be a hot mess.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things where we're just trying to help out the cause as well, bring some buzz back to Comerica, because we kind of know what's coming. The attendance is going to be pretty bad after game 1. All right, before we get out of here, one round of Big Vito's over-under.
Sure.
60% over or under it snows Thursday, the day of opening game, or the temperature is really bad and maybe below 30.
Under 60%, even though I know the East Coast is being hit by snowstorms yet again, like the 4th time this year. Crazy, right? But I would say about 30% of the chance that we're hit by snowstorms come opening day.
Have you started to work your plan out yet for what you're going to do?
Well, you were saying that Tap and Barrel's having an event. Are we going to be there? I don't have to work at Top Cat or like be somewhere inside an office. I might have some work to get done in the morning before the games. But you would want to get there early, right? Like before everything to be part of the festivities too?
Yeah, first pitch usually around 1. You want to get there around 11.
11 or something, 2 hours at least before?
Exactly.
And get our drink on? Would you be drinking? And what would you be drinking, Dad?
Guinness and some sliders, man. It's perfect
Guinness
setup,
is
right?
your drink of choice, huh?
Yeah, maybe we'll set it up. We'll have a good time. Now, in terms of the podcast, when the season starts, it will expand from 30 minutes as we've been doing week by week. Each and every week we've been here breaking it down for the Detroit Tigers, but once the season starts, we'll expand it out a little bit to maybe around 45 minutes.
At least 45 to 50, right?
Yep,
That's fair.
With guests and some insight regarding what we've seen and more expansive talk. So look for that. Vito's always doing great work. You can follow him on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Message anytime. I know the buzz regarding the Tigers is low, but look, we're sports fans. We're going to be breaking it down, and there's still a lot of things to break down in terms of who's performing well, who's not. How is new manager Ron Gardenhire managing this ball club? And we'll be here, the preeminent Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and we'll try to do the best that we absolutely can to bring you the best guests, best insights, and Vito is in the know, being that he's got a relationship with the Detroit Free Press, the Detroit Athletic Company, and the other myriad of great organizations that he's part of, as well as the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Really quick, you have a bobblehead of Michael Fulmer for a reason. We don't have a bobblehead of Jordan Zimmerman. That's why Michael Fulmer, the guy behind you with the bobblehead, should be the opening day starter.
All right, Vito, let's get out of here.
I'll leave you with that. Adios to everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday for another fresh edition of Tigers Talk. Bye-bye.